Today, we're talking about sending cold email based on pain. It's the only secret that you need to get double-digit reply rates. Let's get into it. So, weird way to start a presentation, right? Who should leave now? This isn't a fly-by-night thing. You can't just make one tweak here or there. It's not instant ramen noodles. You need to invest to make this work. And the other important thing is this is not a marketing tactic, it's sales, which means your product needs to be valued at $10,000, $50,000, $100,000 plus dollars a year to make this investment worth it. If you're selling a $100 a month thing, this is probably not the right talk for you. It's not like this, right? It's not like you can just rush this, finish it. I see a lot of clients that I work with that just want to get it done, right? I want to ship. And that's a laudable goal, but this is really about solid research. It's much more like the SpaceX launch, right? Where you had a bunch of people that really invested in understanding the process to get it right once. And obviously you can reach great heights if you do this. So why trust me? Why Jordan, right? So I have grown Zinc, a YC company, from 1 to 100 million in GMV in 2 years. I've worked with tons of companies, like I'm an advisor to Bouncer, a YC Winter 18 company, I'm an advisor to Comstor, another B2B company that does community engagement, and I've done tons of different contracts with companies like LucidWorks and Povio Labs. Also, I've got great data. So all of the different, I'm going to show you examples today, but I get about 80 to 90% open rates and 16 to 24% reply rates on my cold email. And this is really about building a really solid list, much more so than the messaging, which is a little kind of counterintuitive. Congrats, this sucks. So I just randomly went to my spam. I don't mean to harp on Brandon. Everyone has sent a cold email like this, myself included. I sent one like this just a couple of days ago because I tried to skip the process. It doesn't work. Don't do it. So let's dive into why this sucks. It's really important to understand the kind of state of cold email today to know how what I'm talking about is much, much different. So first, if Google calls it, right, that's something that's really important, right? Google is saying, I think this is spam. I've seen these before. I know what spam looks like. Jordan's invite, it's personal, but it's not personalized, right? Sorry, it's personalized, but it's not personal. I got that reversed. And so it has my name, but is it really my personal invite? No, say something important about me that's relevant to me, that's unique to me. Okay, have I been selected for an exclusive invite? No, you should really be talking about something that is unique to me, right? If you're gonna, that's the sort of starting of a message here. It's not an exclusive invite. I know that because Google has told me it's spam, right? So you instantly lose credibility. At least it was the simple explanation of what this thing does, but again, it wasn't about me. Jumped right to, here's who the seller is, right? This is, I'm Brandon. This is what I do. Here's who I am. But I don't care about you. I care about me. Talk about me and my problems. Oh, this asked me to do two things, right? Not reply. So Brandon's sin here is that he was doing marketing, not sales, right? He treated my inbox like an ad platform, like Facebook or LinkedIn. He should not have done that, right? He should have asked me to reply to him because the sale is worth it. Now, in this case, they just probably sent tens of thousands of emails hoping that people would buy it. It was a numbers game, right? This is not what I'm advocating that you do. And I think that Brandon should invest his money and time in ads and not emails here. I also don't understand the returns. I think a lot of email programs are really difficult to use. So this happens all the time. I'd mentioned this earlier, but targeting is much, much better than perfect copy. So if I said to Mr. Purple Shirt here, hey, I have a pill that will help you with your stomach pains, right? It doesn't really matter what I say. If I'm talking about his pain and I'm addressing it to the right audience, he's going to respond, right? I stole this idea from my good friend Tarek, who has sent many, many more emails than me, and he works at Clearbank. And I really buy into this idea that targeting is so much more important than the perfect copy. And generally, if you get the targeting right, you can just talk about the targeting that you did in your email, so it makes it way easier. And I'll show you some examples later. It's about understanding. So if I don't really investigate the challenges that this blind person has, I don't really know their problems. And so I might superficially think, oh, he could use a better cane, but I don't know that's the case. Maybe actually he is looking to find the curb, and the problem is finding the curb, not necessarily improving the cane, and maybe there's better technology for that. So the good thing is there's just tons of data online about intent-based data, technology-based data, website traffic, what ads folks are sending. You can see all of that online. So you really need to be able to understand the context of your customer. And so if I'm talking to a sales audience here, you guys are going to want to skip this, but do not do it. Do not do it. Really, you need to understand your prospects. So let's go over a case study here. So this was a campaign that I worked on for Primer, sayprimer.com. My good friend Keith there is the CEO, and Primer's differentiators, they can target ads to specific people. So instead of audiences, you can actually advertise to Larry, Joe, and Bob, or everyone that works at Segment, for example. So the problem is that a lot of these targeting solutions on Facebook or LinkedIn allow you to target sort of generic audiences. I'm looking for IT professionals who are blah, 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 blah. And that leaves a lot to be desired. Sometimes you'll get folks internationally that you don't really want, or at companies that are too small or too big, or sometimes you'll get folks that have just transitioned jobs and it's, maybe they're not established in their role to be able to buy something. So Primer is a little bit different here. Get off your phone, Keith. That's better. So this is Keith. He's the CEO of Primer, and he can build a list for you and target that specific list with ads on Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. So that's the problem they solve, and that's kind of what the solution looks like. So first, we want to be able to quantify the folks that are in pain. So we looked at this and we started with demand-based and Terminus customers. These are ABM, account-based marketing tools. So we thought, maybe this is a good time to target these account-based marketing tools because people are at home and a lot of this IP-based targeting isn't really working as well. But a lot of people aren't running ads right now, right? Their business has shifted. So maybe they're in sort of conserve mode, or maybe they're running lots of ads right now. It doesn't depend on, it depends on the company, right? So we looked at their ads, each of the leads' ads on LinkedIn and Facebook. So we looked at PureSpace. PureSpace is a space rental company. Really like them a lot, but obviously they aren't running ads right now because people aren't renting spaces. So we looked at the most recent comment. In this case, it was 4 months ago. So we know PureSpace has stopped running ads. So they're a bad target for us. So we went to Atlassian, and Atlassian was running ads, and we said, okay, how can we identify if their ads are being served to the wrong people? So we just looked at the comments on a lot of their ads on LinkedIn, for example, and it turns out a lot of this is spam. Atlassian paid for the spam. They paid for it to reach these folks, right? So you know that there's a pain here, and maybe they don't even know it, but I'm going to help articulate it. Great, there was someone that said, awesome, maybe they're a good lead for Atlassian. I don't know. But upon further investigation, we find out this person is in Nigeria. So I don't know if Atlassian was targeting specifically people in Africa, but that's something to know, right? And also business development managers, not really sure if Atlassian was targeting business development managers or people that work at this particular company that Kalu works at. So again, another level of investigation to determine if really Atlassian meant to target their ad to this person, or if LinkedIn just kind of sent the ad to people that really shouldn't have got it. There's another way to quantify the pain here and to make sure that this is a great fit for Primer. And one of the ways to do this is to look at a tool like SimilarWeb. SimilarWeb tells us the exact number of people that come to the site and where that traffic comes from, right? So we did a little research about what does a click cost these days. Turns out between 79 and 97 cents, depending on the source here. And then I can take the amount of traffic that comes from programmatic display ads and tell you about what Atlassian spends a month on ads, right? I can totally use this in my copy, right? And I know if they're spending $200,000 a month, if I can make a 5%, a 10% improvement, it's $20,000, right? In improved targeting, totally worth it. Let's break down the copy here. Is company open to experiments? High first. This will get nice open rates because the message is vague enough, right, to make you want to open versus trying to sell in that subject line. And also you've got the company and the first name, right? Kind of basic stuff, right? This is where I said that the ad writes itself, right? I was looking through your LinkedIn presence and I noticed some of your recent ads. And in this case, I linked to the ad that I showed you, right? A little bit of a distraction, right? Maybe this is something to test because you're actually encouraging someone to click out, but aren't getting the right kind of engagement. So here's an example of someone that you targeted that maybe commented on it, right? And they were in X country. So if Atlassian knows that they're not targeting those folks, it's like, well, wait a minute. Yeah, why are they seeing my ad? I wasn't aware of the problem before. I'm so glad you told me. Didn't seem like a good lead for you. And based on SimilarWeb, it looks like you're spending amount on display ads, right? So now I've crystallized a pain that they don't even know. And then I've reiterated kind of how much I think that they're probably spending on ads. And so I've quantified the size of that pain. And then I say, if you could be 100% certain that only companies like reference customers. So I've had an outsourcer pull an exact reference customer, someone they know that they're really proud of that is a customer of Atlassian's. Notice this is super short, right? I don't even actually say what Primer does. I just say, hey, here's who I am. I'm the CEO of Primer. I don't go into a Primer is the greatest this or that. I move on, right? Now I've given them a why to act. So why should I act now? Why should I bother not doing anything? I'm very comfortable not doing anything. We're rolling in the money right now, right? Why do I care about a 10% or a 20% or even a 50% improvement because we're doing so well? So I've given them a reason to act now. Then social proof, right? I've shown a more than 50% improvement in, more than 100% improvement here in conversion rates, right? This is what Primer did for them. And again, I like, hey, if you know that your ads can only target customers like your ideal customer, would that be interesting to you? And then I put the PS because I love PSs, but now it's like, maybe your ads are targeting not the right folks because I just did some research and I think that they aren't. So maybe you also want to replace your ad agency and we can help with that. Let's look at a second case study. So Pico, try Pico.com. I worked with them and they help you monetize your online community. So help you capture emails, segment users, create a journey for a user to be able to pay you for premium content, or in this case, actually passes for yoga. So the problem is that there's a lot of yoga studios right now that can't open their doors, right? They have the instructors, they've got the equipment, but they have to transition online if they want to keep making money. Pico can solve that. Pico helps yoga studios, for example, be able to collect emails, sell one-time passes, collect payments. It's all right there and it's no code, right? Drop it on the site, it's ready to go. So this might be a great solution for yoga companies. So how do we quantify this pain? How do I find yoga companies, right? Well, I just looked at yoga on Yelp and it turns out that some of these folks already have virtual classes. Now, this could go either way, right? The virtual classes may be a good fit for us because they are trying to train online and maybe they're having troubles collecting payments, or maybe they've already solved this problem because they have virtual classes. So don't quite know until we look into it further. But there's also a ton of yoga studios that have not clearly gone online. They've not made this transition, right? And so Yelp has this generic COVID-19 message about contact the business, right? So they haven't sort of aggressively made the step to go online. So maybe that's what they need help with. So all I did was I plugged in an advanced Google search, give me the phrase yoga, exclude this generic message so we can only focus on folks with virtual classes. I don't want virtual classes. I actually just want the generic folks, and we'll look into the copy later. I forget which one I targeted. And then site or domain only on Yelp.com, right? So 105,000 possible businesses that haven't updated their Yelp message, and they don't have virtual classes as a listing. So I looked at the third here. It looks like they do have a list for classes, but it's broken, right? So this is totally someone that Pico can help with. Now I've identified the pain, and I found a couple of reference customers here to make sure that my targeting is spot on. Paying for studio classes. So in the case of the yoga studio that we looked at, they are having a problem. There was a broken link, right? So saw that studio has moved to online classes. In this case, actually, this is the copy for the folks that did have virtual classes, right? But you aren't collecting online payments, right? So I had an outsourcer go and look at all of those studios that are collecting payments, or that are doing virtual classes, but are not yet collecting payments, right? So I've quantified this list pretty well. And I always start with the reason in my cold email, like, why the hell am I reaching out, right? I tell you the targeting criteria that I used. Again, no one cares about you. No one cares about Jason. I care about Jason, but for the most part, no one cares about you, right? It's they care about themselves. And then I use a social proof here, right? It's a lot easier for people to understand. There's a great book, Thinking Fast and Slow, and people are able to abstract from a specific example to like statistics, but they can't go the other way. It's not as easy for them, right? So I want to talk about a particular person that Pico's helped. So in this case, we talked about Laura's Vinyasa. I changed the names here, but and has moved to Pico Online, and then I talked about Laura's story, right? Hey, in only 4 weeks, her business is now doing more money than she was running a physical studio, and basically all she had to do was give us the keys to the castle, and we were able to help her out. And then just yes, no. I'm not asking for you to have any questions, or why don't you click on this link and then fill out this form? No, I just reply and say yeah, this is a challenge for me, and we can go from there, and then I can schedule you, etc. But I'm not saying click this link and find a time for you to schedule yourself. No, I want to verify that this is a problem for you first. Let's look at a third case study. So I run a company, sendwithscout.com. We do super hyper customized postcards, right? With unique images, links on every postcard so we can track who came from each card. We do things like identify which roofs are the best for solar and space. We're building unique landing pages for every customer so they can go from a postcard to a custom landing page just for them. It's really crazy. So we were targeting solar companies, right? And no one wants to chat with someone that's going door to door right now, right? Dangerous, right? I found this online, and it's scary, right? People don't want you to come and knock on their doors and to sell to them. And so this was a really big avenue of sales for a ton of solar companies in California. And so this is sort of the problem. What's the solution? Postcards is the solution. So we can actually replicate a lot of the same lead tactics that these folks did with door-to-door, is by targeting the 6 nearest neighbors of existing installs. So I can say, hey, I was just over at Larry's house, and Larry used us to install solar panels. I just want to let you know that he's had a good time there with it. You should chat with him about what it's like to go solar. So it's totally something that you can automate with postcards. So this is what we did. We included a picture of their roof from space. We included variables about how many hours of sunlight per year they get. We actually disqualified all of these roofs that had solar panels, and I had an outsourcer look at every single roof from space and say it has solar or it doesn't have solar. So we really, really qualified in this case, this was the end customers, but I'm actually mailing the solar installers. So how do we quantify the pain? Well, it turns out there's a great data source, California NEM Data set, and this is a list of every single solar installer in California and every single install of solar panels in California. So I can tell exactly how many people are selling. I know what they sold last month versus this month. So I can target the folks that had a really, really great year in the end of 2019 or all of 2019 and that are on the decline right now, that are actively looking for solutions, and that are not these sort of small fries that maybe just sell a little bit of solar and mostly have other businesses, but really the people that sell a lot of solar and are in pain right now. So I straight up stole this subject line again from my good friend Tarek here, and he said, I'm crushing it with this line. So I was like, okay, great, I'll sell it. And this is when Tiger King was really big. So I got an 89% open rate on this, right? It sparks curiosity. This is, again, just a summarization of the targeting criteria, right? And in this case, this had a 26% positive reply rate because I told them information about their company that they didn't know, right? Did you know across the entire state, you own 10% of, or you own 10 great zip codes. You are the leading installer in those 10 zip codes. And by the way, your best zip code was 94109. You did a great job there, right? So it's like, wow. And in many cases, I get a question like, how did you know this, right? And they're kind of surprised that I have this data. We went through the NEM data. So it's jargon, right? My customer knows this jargon. This is the number of zip codes that my customer was number one, again, news to them. And this was their number one zip code. And I kind of remove the selling pressure here. Like, I don't have any expectation that you're doing heavy marketing right now saying, hey, look, if you're shut down, I totally get it. And there were some counties that were, experiencing this challenge. They literally could not get permits issued. So, and then I remind them, hey, remember how you probably relied on door knocking? They're like, yeah, you're right. I don't have that now. Again, how interesting. Like, is this interesting to you? Now let's talk about doing at scale. That's one thing I haven't really got into here. It's like, how do I do this to send 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 emails? You want to remove all of the context in your targeting criteria. So this is super, super key. To be able to do this, you're going to have to hire an outsourcer. And to train that outsourcer, you can't say, can you look at this web page and figure out if they're a great fit for a solar install, right? Like, no, there's no way an outsourcer is going to be able to do that. You need to say, look at this page, and does it have the word products at the top left? Yes or no? Look at this lead, and does this lead have direct mail in that exact word in their LinkedIn summary, right? Yes or no. And the really easiest way to do this is to do the first 20 rows of enrichment yourself and just use Loom. It's a free tool. You can record it yourself in the bottom corner of the screen and just do the research for 20 or 30 of these rows with the data points that you want, that you're going to use in your copy and your targeting. And you'll often find that you get to row 3 or 4 or 5 and you're like, shoot, there's so much of my context here. And you're going to understand all of the different intricacies in some of the different options here. So as you go through your list, you'll say, oh, wait, that requires my context. I should add this other criteria. Okay, that's not exactly right. And when you give it to the outsourcer, it's going to be a much better experience. I also suggest that you hire multiple people. So if you don't have really an outsourcer that you work with, hire 10, 20 of them. Onlinejobs.ph is a good one to find folks at. There's a ton. Upwork, Fiverr, I think there's like Gigster, maybe is another one. And so the trick is not to use an agency. Hire a person that you can work with, that you know, that you can train over time, and pay by the hour. Don't pay by the row. It's going to be more expensive at first, but it's in the long run, it's so cheap, especially if you think about what these deals are going to net you. So hire multiple people, give them all the exact same tasks, maybe have them do 100 rows, and then see what results come out of it, and then stick with the person that did the best job. MTurk is really, really good for super simple things. So I use that for disqualifying solar homes. So I had 3 different MTurks look at every single roof from space. I just made custom Google links for satellite images. And all they had to do was, is there solar panels, yes or no, on this roof? This is a perfect example of a task that surprised me. Some cases there were no roofs, right? I didn't really leave an option for that. In some cases, trees were obscuring the roofs. There's no way for them to know. In other cases, pool heaters looked very similar to solar panels, so it gets a little bit tricky, especially it's the game of telephone, right? I say dog, and eventually it goes through 4, 6, or 7, or 8 different people, and it comes out cup on the other end, right? And that's exactly what outsourcing is like. So you have to be explicit about your targeting criteria and what you're asking, and that's why if you do 20, 30, 40 rows yourself, you're gonna see these variations. Great. So you should be an email expert now. We talked about summarizing things by pane. We talked about messaging, and I gave you some examples of some copy that I have used to get 80 to 90% open rates and 10 to 20% reply rates. I'm Jordan at Send with Scout. I'd be happy to help you. And congratulations on taking the time to learn a little bit more about how to do cold email right.